Good morning, everybody. I hope I'm audible. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to really spend time with a subject which I'm very, very passionate about. Now, in our last 2 years of research, what we found was there was no pharmacotherapy addressing the root cause in autism. Though that was a very, very difficult journey to start with, most of us discouraged us, saying that the etiology is not known, nothing can work, and the pharmacotherapies which are available is only for comorbid conditions where the children suffer because of the core symptoms. So this prompted us to a study. Always we have believed in doing something, which is a breakthrough is what isn't what it is. A breakthrough is giving people what isn't and having it be. So we embarked on a journey to find out what are the real causes of the pathophysiology of autism at a molecular level, at a genetic level. We found something very, very interesting. When you look at autism, 50% they say it is of genetic cause. And the genes, the genome, is a mixture of both parents, mother and father, and they say it's quite stable. And today we are not in a position to really impact on that and give a medication. Okay. The next 50%, they say it's environmental. So we thought, what is environmental? We wanted to find out what this environment is all about. And when we went back to doing the basics in molecular biology, we found that the baby inherits two things. One, the genes from both the parents, and two, the microbiome from the mother. While the genes are very stable and not malleable, the microbiome changes over a period of time and results can be achieved there. So we thought that there's a great opportunity because for the 50% of the children who have an environmental problem, and if they are diagnosed early, if we can correct the microbiome of the child, is there a possibility for bringing them back to normalcy? Or if a moderately affected child, can it become normal? Or a severely affected child, can it become moderate? So we conducted this a lot of trials. And then we found out the truth was something very startling. I would like to present that by way of a presentation. Though it may look technical, I'll try and make it as simple as possible because I have seen the parents sharing and Ms. Shireen sharing her views on how children can be trained, the mind and body coordination, and how improvement can be done, and at a molecular level, at a genetic level. If this can also be really tuned, I think so the improvements which we can see would be very, very significant. See, I'll take you. I'd like your attention on this screen. See here, I'm pointing it out. Are you able to see the pointer?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. See, there's a thing called as gut dysbiosis. This gut dysbiosis is the imbalance of the microbiome. That is the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. When the bad bacteria becomes higher, this gut microbiome is altered, which leads to an inflammation of the gut, and it creates a leaky gut. These are the tight junction proteins which hold the gut in a very tight manner so that the bacterial toxins, outside toxins, don't enter the gut. Once this leaky gut is a problem, what happens? The bacterial toxins enter into the blood circulation, into your digestive system. And here, because a foreign body comes inside, there are something called as pro-inflammatory cytokines. These pro-inflammatory cytokines are nothing but when somebody gets injured, there is a swelling. That swelling is a defense mechanism, and these pro-inflammatory cytokines are formed in large numbers because of the toxins are entering. Now what happens here, the toxins keep entering and these pro-inflammatory cytokines keep increasing. Now, when this happens, there are three pathways where your gut and brain are connected. One is the CNS pathway, which is connected through a vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the largest nerve wandering from the brain to the reproductive system. And this vagus nerve is very, very vital for connecting the brain to the enteric neuron system. That means to say the stomach is called as a second brain. And there is a bidirectional signaling of these three pathways. One is the vagus nerve pathway, one is the HPA axis pathway, one is the systemic circulation. So one of the simplest examples is when we get frightened out of a sudden shock, we feel that in the pit of the stomach. That is because of the signaling of the bidirectional signaling. And because these systemic inflammation inside the body, the inflammation with the bacterial toxins as well as these pro-inflammatory cytokines increase, these bidirectional signaling pathways are affected. So the messages, the sensory nervous message and the motor nervous message, which I think Ms. Shireen was talking about, gets affected in the sense there is no coordination. When this gets disrupted, there is something called as a blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is a very, very important barrier. That means to say, whatever we eat, whatever we ingest, doesn't go to the brain, and there is a barrier where the brain says, I would allow only things which are very useful for me. And this serves as a very, very important defense mechanism for the brain and its function. It allows glucose, it allows certain nutrients, and it allows certain impulses from the stomach to the brain, and every single aspect of danger, response, all these signals which are converted into chemical signals pass the blood-brain barrier. But what happens here, because of the bacterial toxins and the pro-inflammatory cytokines, this very important channel of the bidirectional signaling is disrupted. When this is disrupted, the whole toxic material crosses the blood-brain barrier, which otherwise it would have not crossed. And there is one more important thing called as synaptic pruning. I hope you all understand that between two neurons, there is a junction called a synapse, which helps in the unidirectional flow of information from one neuron to another neuron. So as we are children, these neuronal junctions get added very, very indiscriminately. Okay, they keep getting added. And over a period of time, till 20 years of time, this synaptic pruning keeps on happening. What is pruning? What is not required is getting destroyed. That is called as autophagy. It's like writing a huge essay, and then you see that in the net it says only 300 words are allowed. What do? You keep cutting it and come to the exact 300 words, which makes sense. Similarly here, a lot of synapses are being added, and for normal children, whatever is not used, whatever is not required, that synaptic pruning removes that. Now, because this blood-brain barriers are breached with all these toxins, for the autistic child, this synaptic pruning is not happening. There is a reduced synaptic pruning. That means to say there's a whole lot of neuronal junctions which are keeping on getting produced, which leads to neuroinflammation. Inflammation is swelling. When there is a neuroinflammation, this causes core ASD symptoms, which is social withdrawal, stress, irritability, aggression, impulsivity, lack of bonding, lack of communication, anxiety, and mood disorder. Now, the whole aspect of this is, people were thinking that, the gastrointestinal problems was an effect of autism. But what we found out, it's a cause. It's an important cause for autism, ASD, and it is not just, and also a contributing factor once it is caused. So what happens now is, the clinical manifestations of gut dysbiosis is there is a protein called a zonulin which holds the gut bacteria very tight. As I told you, there is a leaky gut. And this zonulin is a protein which holds the gut bacteria, entire gut bacteria very tight. And the tight junctions are loosened only when the zonulin goes down. If there is a gut dysbiosis in the autistic child, when you test, the zonulin antibodies will be very high. And pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin 1 beta, interleukin 1, interleukin alpha 6, 11, 18, and 17 are pretty higher. And also, if you check, the oxytocin levels are significantly lower, affecting bonding and social behavior. The oxytocin levels are also created in the gut, and this is the hormone which actually enables people to connect to each other, like each other, emotional bonding. All these things, happen because of oxytocin. And in the autistic child, the oxytocin levels are very low. And also there is one more marker in the fecal matter. If you test, calprotectin is another protein which will be higher. Calprotectin also is very important for your gut integrity. So these are all the biomarkers you can see that there is a connection between gut dysbiosis and ASD. The key markers are zonulin levels are higher in the serum, calprotectin levels are higher in the fecal matter, tumor necrosis alpha is higher, interleukin 1 beta, 6, 8, 12, and 17 are higher. These are all the markers which we found. These are all very high in autistic children, connecting your dysbiosis to the autistic child. When you look at a normal child, these levels are very normal to the threshold level. So what is that effectively at a molecular level? What is the management of an ASD? How should you target the root cause? We need to restore the normal gut microbiome. When you look at, I will give you an example of organic farming here. Now, what is organic farming? Why it is so good? I went into the depths. I tried to find out what is organic farming. How does it connect to autism? No, because we wanted to find out different ways of, and we visited very great farmers who are actually very good in organic farming. It's not just about the pesticides. It's about the microbes which they spread to the soil. They take 2 years to spread the microbes to the soil. They spread lactobacillus, they spread fusobacterium, and they spread Pseudomonas to balance the microbiome of the soil to ensure that the microbiome goes into the plant and therefore the plant becomes much more nutritious. So it's not just about pesticides. Similarly, for the autistic children, when you give them specific psychobiotics. Why do we call them as psychobiotics? Because it has got a direct connection to the bidirectional signaling of the brain, and it can actually alter the brain mechanism by reducing the neuronal inflammation. So first, restore the gut microbiome by giving a very good selected diverse set of probiotics called as psychobiotics. Heal the gut epithelium and arrest leaky gut. Reverse the gut dysbiosis and reduce the translocation of bacteria, toxin, and metabolites from outside. Reduce the gut and systemic inflammation. When the inflammation in the gut goes down, the child feels absolutely happy. Normalize bidirectional brain-gut signaling, significantly reduce neuroinflammation, and alleviate ASD symptoms. The key here is to re-establish the brain and the microbiome homeostasis. And we took a lot of pride in introducing the first brain microbiome specific product after 2 years of extensive research, which restores the brain biome homeostasis. And it contains 12 different strains of 30 billion CFUs, colonizing focusing units of probiotics. To name a few, very important, we have L. rhamnosus, which heals the gut very quickly. L. reuteri, which produces oxytocin, and in that, if that bidirectional signaling is normalized, the oxytocin goes to the brain of the child, and the child would start bonding with parents much better. Eye contact is much better, and the way it responds to the behavioral therapy is going to be much better. It also has a fungi called as Saccharomyces boulardii, which restores mucosal integrity. It contains digestive enzymes, lipase, protease, and bromelain, which helps in the digestion of the child, and brain nutrients with the DHA and choline and micronutrients. So brain biome today, we call it as unique because nobody has thought about looking at autism from the gut to the brain, and it is holistic because it takes care of the root cause till the core ASD symptoms. So what are the demonstrable benefits you can find? It tightens the gut, reduction in the serum zonulin antibodies and calprotectin in the fecal matter, reduction in systemic inflammation, reduce in serum pro-inflammatory cytokines, and enhanced social behavior and bonding. This is what the parents are going to see, significant increase in oxytocin levels. And when you are with a school like PlayStreet, where they have a scientific methodology of connecting the mind and brain, and they have certain very important programs, the improvement of the child would be very significant. As they rightly put it across, it's not the curriculum, mainstream curriculum that is important, it's the connection to the world in a very meaningful way that the child is going to have. And to all children, we ask the doctors, we promote this to pediatricians, developmental pediatricians with clinical trials, one sachet twice daily with either milk or with water, or you can add that to any kind of a pasty food, which they can really take. So what basically brain biome reestablishes is the brain and the microbiome axis for the children to have a better social behavior and reduce their repetitive behavior. So this is a product which we have innovated and which we are trying to conduct many, many clinical trials. We are conducting a 12-center clinical trial in the Indian Association of Pediatrics now. And while many Dwivedi connected me through Facebook, I went and met her because this is a subject of great interest for me. And this is not just a product which we want to really, I could have retired. I could have retired after my last encounter, last organism where I sold it to another company. But I want to leave a legacy for this. My entire passion is about beyond me after 50 or 100 years. If the autistic child is going to come back into mainstream, and I really don't know what is mainstream. I don't want to use that word mainstream. I hate that word. If they're going to be accepted by parents first, by the society, and we are also trying to create an ecosystem for doctors who don't have a school like PlayStreet. Across the country, we have a program called as Harsha. This Harsha is a parent delight program. Harsha in Sanskrit means delight. So we have a professional, a motivational and life coach who talks to the parents after the child leaves the clinic. Because today, in a doctor scenario, it's pretty unfortunate that they see 50 to 60 kids and they don't even have time to converse. And the kind of counselors they have, the counselors counsel the kids only when they are at the clinic, and afterwards it's left to the parents. It's about 3 to 4 hours of daily activity that they prescribe, which is very difficult for the parents without training. You parents have an immense and incredible training done by PlayStreet, but the other parents don't have this. So to create an ecology, unless and until an ecology is created for the parents, for the kids, and for the healthcare practitioners, the treatment is not going to work. Mere medication is not going to work. We know that we don't want to be a medicine vendor. We wanted to create an ecosystem. So Harsha is a program which is very, very doing very well. Whatever the doctor has prescribed as an activity, as a sensory activity, as a physical activity, and as a behavioral activity, plus the medication, we have an expert talking to the parents every week, understanding their problems, and getting them back to the doctor so that the doctor understands what the real problems of parents are. Usually the doctors don't even know, forget the right answers, they don't even ask the right questions. So we are trying to create an ecosystem. We are trying to create a natural remedy which would take care of the root cause in treating the core symptoms of ASD. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor and a privilege to interact with parents and all the stakeholders of PlayStreet.